Eric?
And North, for more on the Ferguson arrest and the suspect story, let's go to defense attorney Eric Guster and trial attorney David Wohl. Welcome to you both. Eric, let me start with you.
Eric.
Do you buy this claim of self-defense?
It's going to be tough for him to show self-defense. In a case like this, there's a thing called transferred intent, where if you try to shoot someone and miss and hit someone else, you're still charged with the same thing. So he has to come up with something to justify why he shot these two officers, and that would be a very good claim if he actually had to do it. Because if he was defending himself from an attacker, from a robber, then he shot someone by mistake, then he will be clear of those charges. But it's interesting that there's no one else who's saying this. All the protesters who were out there, all the cameras that were out there, he has to come up with something to prove that this actually happened that way.
Yeah, you know, David, that's a good point. No witnesses that we know of so far. No other story about some type of protester, robbing him. No one else coming forward. And look, Jeffrey Williams, 20 years old, he has a criminal record. He didn't come out and surrender. He apparently had the gun in his home. He didn't say, I did it. He didn't go to his lawyer. He didn't say it was a mistake. He's saying, though, that he did fire those shots at the police officers, according to the authorities. Do you think that it could be self-defense, or does it even matter because the shots did hit those unfortunate officers?
No, I mean, it would matter, but it's a tall order at this point. Presumably, he had the keys to that car because he fled the scene after the shooting. Now, the idea that someone's going to rob him in a car that he has control over, that he has the ability to drive away from the scene in, is a very difficult concept to grasp for self-defense. The critical issue here is, though, intent, because the difference between intent and not intent regarding the cops is attempted murder of police officers versus assault with a deadly weapon, and that could be huge when it comes to the sentencing. Now, that's why I think over the past few days he has thought this out. He's probably consulted with lawyers and been told your only hope is to establish some type of self-defense defense, and that's why it's going to be critical to see whether there is more surveillance video that could show the car, that could possibly show him leaning out the window of the car with his gun, because if that's the case, and there's no one in the path between him and the officers, forget about it. He's going to have a real uphill battle in this one.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, Eric, maybe he doesn't want to call the police because he's protesting the police.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily think that was why. Because when you raise a self-defense claim, as I've told many clients, if you shoot at someone and you're raising a self-defense claim, it's very difficult if you disappear for a couple of days. It's very difficult to come back and say, by the way, I shot at someone or shot someone in self-defense and I didn't call 911. I didn't say I feared for my life. I didn't call a representation. I didn't call anyone. So that's going to make it very difficult for him to make that claim at the 11th hour right now. So,
and Eric,
yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Yeah, go ahead, Eric. No. David, go ahead.
Eric, that's a great point you brought up, Eric. I mean, this gentleman wasn't a Greenpeace protester. He wasn't a no nukes protester. I mean, he was protesting the cops. And from a distance of, we don't know what the distance was, but he makes a direct hit on two officers and says, oops, that was just an accident. I was trying to shoot someone else. The reality is the chances of that happening are pretty much slim and none. And so, again, if his defense lawyers come up with anything in this case, it's got to be good surveillance video, perhaps bolstering his claim. Who knows?
Go ahead.
And there's a decent chance that it was a mistake. I don't necessarily believe the story, but there's a decent chance, and let me tell you why. Kids get these guns, and they always miss. They always miss. I cannot count the number of cases that I've had where someone has shot at someone and missed and hit the wrong person. My very last capital murder case I tried was that exact same scenario where someone was shooting at someone and missed and hit someone else. So that is a decently plausible possibility, but the surrounding factors of he hit two officers and no one else, that's definitely against him. He didn't call 911. That's definitely against him.
Not only that, I mean, look at the guy. He's on probation for 7 months. They had a warrant out for his arrest because, guess what? He didn't check in with his probation officer. Apparently has some type of record, at least arrests, in July for domestic assault, in September for criminal control of a controlled substance. So, look, you're dealing with someone who has been in the criminal justice system and, didn't pick up the phone and say, Uh-oh, I just got robbed and I used my gun. Oh, and by the way,
And Eric,
And he
Eric,
wasn't supposed to have
also,
a
he
gun
did
at
not
all.
have a permit. He did not have a permit
Oh, I'm
for that
sure he
gun either.
didn't.
He didn't have a CCW. He was carrying the gun illegally, which doesn't help his case. But again, video is the magic weapon at this point. If they have something that shows somebody attacking him in the car, which I highly doubt, it could be very helpful.
Yeah, and finally, David, what's going to happen?
Well, I suspect that he will be charged. My guess is they're going to establish intent to shoot the cops. That means 2 counts of attempted murder of a police officer, which in any jurisdiction, if he's convicted, means a life sentence.
Eric, what's your prediction?
I think the same thing. I think it'll be an assault case, and he may plea it down because if he doesn't come up with a decent self-defense witness or video, he's going to have to plead this down because he's already admitted it, according to what we've seen and read. He's admitted to shooting, so they have him on that. Now it's the why that could possibly save him from being in prison for the rest of his life.
All right, Eric and David, if you're getting robbed, do not get your gun. That's illegal, and open fire. Call the police. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
You don't have a gun in the first place. And, you know, people have been complaining that I referred to the criminals there inciting violence in Ferguson as knuckleheads. They are criminals.